Do you understand, you are out there and the Federalist movement that you are heading, do you understand the position of the United Nations since the commencement of this crisis? The United States also has issued, has made some resolutions at the level of Congress and Senate. The EU Parliament has done the same, but practically speaking, we have not seen a clear move, a direction that shows that the UN is coming in anytime soon.
Well, first of all, Mr. Kum, when you mention the US and countries like it, and mention the UN in one breath, on a matter like this, and try to suggest that there may be a difference in opinion, in approach between those countries and the UN, then you don't understand how the UN functions. And the UN, after all, it's, let me put it this way: when you talk of the UN, you have to distinguish between organs of the UN that bring together member states and organs of the UN that constitute the civil service of the United Nations, which does the will of the organs made up of member states. The organs made up of member states are the General Assembly and the Security Council. Limiting myself to those two, I don't want to go into the Economic and Social Council and all the rest, but just taking those two, the General Assembly and the Security Council. Okay? The Secretary General is formally the Chief Administrative Officer of the UN. In other words, the head of the UN Civil Service, which services the Security Council, the General Assembly, and other organs of the UN. So, before the Secretary General takes a stand on an issue of this kind, he is obviously going to consult as widely as possible with member states, especially those in the Security Council, and especially among those in the security, those who are permanent members with a power of veto. You know, I've tried, when this crisis began, as early as the 21st or 22nd of July 2017, in a conference that I attended in Atlanta, convened by a group of Cameroonians, in which I shared the platform with my good friend and colleague, Professor Carlson Anyangwe, who, as we know, is in the separatist arena, if you like, and Barrister Bobga, who, at least in that 2017, was also, I don't know where he is now, where he stands now, but he was, ardently separatist at the time. I told them, let's not think that the solution to this problem is going to come from outside. Not from the United Nations, not from the AU, not from Washington, not from Paris, not from London. We Cameroonians have to get our acts together, come up with a blueprint of what we want. If we all rally around it, then we can use that to take towards the UN and say, this is what we, the Cameroonian people, want. Or if you like, we, the Southern Cameroonians, want on this particular issue. And when they see that what we are proposing is reasonable and something that they can support, then they will throw their weight behind it. They are not going to be the ones to come and define the solution for us. And I said at that conference that from that perspective, separation is out of the question. Because for you to have separation and independence, there are only two pathways. One is diplomatic. In other words, you convince the countries of the world at the UN to support you. But I reminded my compatriots at that conference that it is through the UN that, but it's under the auspices of the UN that our people voted on the 11th of February to achieve independence by joining La République. It is under the auspices of the UN that the post-reunification, the post-plebiscite conferences were held leading up to October 1st, 1961. And all this while, the UN has taken cognizance of the fact that since 1st of October 1961, the former British administered UN Trust Territory of Southern Cameroons ceased to have that status. And by the way, the trusteeship agreement between the United Nations and the United Kingdom over this territory that was signed in 1946 or 1947 ended. That's an agreement between the UK and the UN for the administration of SC, Southern Cameroons. It ended once Southern Cameroons opted to achieve independence by joining La République. So, who in the international community are you going to convince that the work of decolonizing Southern Cameroons was not completed? Who? So I argued that based on that, it is futile to say that you are going to pursue independence by diplomacy. And when Julius Ayuk-Tabe and others started flying around here, acting like head of state already, you see him arrive at the airport in Washington or New York with a cortege of bodyguards and drivers and all of that to say a diplomatic offensive. I just laughed. I laughed. This was a show. He wasn't going to lead anywhere. You know? So that part of independence by diplomacy, I argued, and I still argue, was a no-go. It wouldn't lead anywhere. Therefore, if you insist that you have to get independence, know that because that involves breaking up an existing country called Cameroon, the rest of Cameroon is not going to allow you to go to walk out just like that. You come and say, oh, okay, look, after you guys have been trying to assimilate us, we're tired of this, we're walking out. They wouldn't let you go. You know, they will resist, and if they resist, then remember, know then that independence can only be by war. But if you elect that path, then remember that war has its consequences. And I'm talking as someone who, in my UN career, worked in many conflict and post-conflict countries. I saw it with my own eyes, what devastation war can cause. And I would have preferred to save my own country and every part of it such an experience. And that's what I tried to do from 2017. But they wouldn't listen. And they took us now into this adventure, once again on the theory of anger, lies, and violence. See where we are. The reality is that the forces of the forces of the government of Cameroon are not going to be beaten by what Choayaba and the others are trying to do. People say to me, oh, Dr. Munzu, don't speak like that. I mean, how can you be so sure? I said, look, listen, I have seen these things. I know the posture of a guerrilla force that can defeat the forces of, the regular forces of a nation. It's not because you bring down 2 or 3 soldiers here, 4 there, whether it's through a so-called IED exploding or by whatever other means, that you think that that is going to lead to your defeating the national army to the point where they sue for peace and agree that you leave, that you split the country. Oh no, let's not fool ourselves. The day that it happens, I hope I should be alive when it happens. I will applaud. I will applaud for Cho Ayaba. I will applaud for. I will clap for Akwanga. I will clap for Chris Anu or whoever else is leading their military stuff on the ground. But from what I know, from my experience elsewhere, it's not going to happen. And yet, see how much devastation it is causing.
Okay,
this is what I was talking about in so either way, independence is not coming. Therefore, what we Southern Cameroonians especially, but also Cameroonians as a whole, because the good thing that has happened since 2016 is that increasingly Francophones have come to understand the true nature, the true character of our people. You know, so this is the moment where without anger, without lies, without violence, we, the people of Southern Cameroon, but ultimately the people of Cameroon, should examine this matter, throw our weight behind an analysis that leads us a common position and pursue that position. And when we pursue that position with determination, yes, it will move one day. And the international community will find something grown, woven, distilled by Cameroonians that they then support.
Okay.